What is up, YouTube world? He's Steve. I'm Dave. Insert Revolution podcast.
Later start than normal.
A little later. We've been chatting about some, I'd say, very current events. Just sort of discussing back and forth, and we both know that it's a polarizing subject. You will never, you rarely find a happy medium between rival camps, as it were. So,
Agreed.
Again, we're doing that for a little while because, again, it's sort of an important night. But hopefully you did this. We didn't bitch about what's going on.
Yep.
That's what I've always said. If you've got qualms and
if you got skin in the game,
what's happening?
If you've got skin in the game, it's all about having skin in the game.
Yeah. So we'll start off first. You pick up anything, or are we gonna go back inside to get that?
Well, I have to go back inside for that. I'm in the backyard because my wife is out front talking with the neighbor, and it's one of those in which nobody wants to hear that gibberish. So I figured I'd take a step back here, catch me a smoke real quick. I know we went on later than normal. We were debating quite a bit whether or not we were going to go live or not, because as he alluded to, it is an important night. You know, no matter what side of the fence you're on, this is something that makes our country great. But at the same time, maybe this kind of will give you a break from some of the coverage. I've been watching it quite a bit, and this will be a nice break. Hopefully we can get some more people kind of, popping in and out and things along those lines. We always have our devout followers who typically stop in. I still expect it to be a fairly early or light turnout because of what's going on, which we kind of anticipated. But at the same time, in the event that, anybody wanted to pop in, we wanted to make sure we were here to openly talk about whatever you guys want to, and ultimately get to the burnout subject, which we didn't really touch on much at all last week, but that's not uncommon for us because that's what we do.
Carlos made fun of us on his stream on Sunday night with a meet. He was, because I put up the whatever it is, the teaser, like, hey, we're going live the usual time. And I put in the title, yeah, we're going to get to it this week. And he loved that. It's just like, at least they're cognizant enough to know that they didn't. We danced around it very gingerly. We brought it up in a couple spots, but it wasn't like we talked about it ad nauseum for a couple hours, which, I mean, we could have 3-4 episodes on this and still probably not be done with it, because at some point in all our hobby careers or our lives, as it was, we've all experienced just like, you know what, fuck it, I need to take a break in some way, shape, or form, because either you're dishing out too much money, cards aren't, the stuff you're trying to collect isn't coming your way, or you're just not finding it.
Right.
You're just tired of the fucking process of like the redemptions and the wax situation, trying to pick stuff up. If you're a guy that, like the Mike O's, like the Ed, the Eric, when you're trying to go to your Target, go to your Walmart, you're trying to find just some retail. Even if it's like Eric, those back pages, hey, I'm just going to sit on it. Or Ed, Wesker Griff, man, I want to go in there and rip a Topps Blast or just to fucking do something.
Yep, just to open it.
Find them. I'm like, what, are we going to have ration stamps for that soon or what? Because it's insane that. And it depends on what your hobby preference is. but we all experience some sort of burnout. And I know in this episode, I've thought of some things. I should have wrote them down, but
I don't think we're going to be. I don't think we're going to go the distance tonight by any stretch of the imagination. Most of it's probably going to be just. It's going to be Dave and I talking to ourselves, which is fine.
And then we sort of have a time limit too, so which starting later, that's not a bad thing because I know I've got to be up at 3:45 for work tomorrow, and it's probably when I'll dip into the checking what went on and what terror awaits in the morning.
That is true. That is true. So to answer your question, so yes, I did get a couple things. I did get a couple things in. I shared this last week. It was just the listing itself, but Legacy Collection, and this is not the backdoor version. It is the blue numbering to 99, $5 shipped. Can't complain. And then Dave, I'm pretty sure you're the only one who knows about this one, but this is the 95 Pacific Rookies and Stars. This is the raspberry parallel. And what's interesting about this one is I stumbled across it, and I even messaged Dave. But the description said blue. The picture was raspberry. And, in the listing itself, it says, you're bidding on the card and the description in the picture. Well, I messaged the seller hoping to get a response. I was like, hey, your description says blue. Your picture is raspberry. Which one is it? So I sent Dave a text, and I was like, call me crazy, but I'm pretty sure this is raspberry. I was like, should I take the chance? It's $5. And he came back and he's like, it's definitely raspberry and it's probably worth the chance. So I took a shot, $5 free shipping, got it in the mail, opened it up, sent the picture to Dave, and I was like, that's a score. Because I've only ever seen one other one, and that was on ComC, and it was like $12 or $13 or whatever, and that was probably over a year ago. So another 95 off the list. So that's a good thing. Did win a few from TNT. Some pretty nice ones. Dave already knows about those. I should get those, I think, on Friday. So hopefully this weekend I'll actually be able to make a video, and then I can also show them off in next week's episode as well, for those who may or may not watch my videos. And hopefully between now and then I'll actually get 98 made. I've got all 98 set up right here next to me to do for the next portion of the PC showcase. So we'll see. But it's all sitting here.
Any news from Germany? Because I know you're talking about it.
So we've solidified the cards, and I'm two of them. It's kind of open for debate because I was even looking at mine, Dave, because I have both cards in question, so to speak, and I'm pretty sure they have the same versions that I do. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm trying to get information, which, you and I were talking about, to try and find out what the differentiation is. And I don't want to not get them just in case there is a variation in the ones that they have, just to play it safe. But I have not submitted my offer yet. I started doing some early on calculations, and I have a feeling this one's going to have some back and forth, because the way that this person lists their stuff, I'm guessing they just have set values in their head for what they start their auctions at. And even if something doesn't sell, they relist it for the same amount. They don't make any adjustments. And some of the few that I know that they've relisted are ones that technically I need. They are not part of the conversation because those cards have already been listed. And I didn't want to take that into consideration either, because sometimes that requires more work. So I kind of left those alone. I have money. I have the dollar value in my head, and I feel it's reasonable. Even as I went through the checklist of what they said that they had, I associated like dollar values to certain cards at this dollar value, certain cards at this dollar value, certain, basically, if I were to have to affix a specific buy price for each card, which I'm not going to provide to them, and I actually came up less than what my offer was going to be. So we're going to see. It's my initial offer is going to be roughly a little over $3 a card, which I think is fair because there is some base in there and some very cheap inserts. So we'll see. I'll probably submit the offer tomorrow and see what happens. Just say, my offer is this, which is roughly a little over $3 a card. Let me know.
Well, that just get the ball rolling.
So we'll see.
What's going on, Matt? Ty, what's going on? Yeah,
so we'll see.
It's odd. Again, there's way too much going on with. If you are following any of the people that are popular on Instagram or whatever platforms there are, what's going on?
What's going
on? Kevin, what's up? If you're following those people and you start seeing, maybe you're a person that hasn't been in the hobby 15, 20 years, but you still have your stuff, and you're like, oh God, if Gary Vee or these other slab stocks or card ladder, any of these people that are market movers, whatever, these new entities coming in, not with new technology, I'd say, but more people that were willing to put the time into doing that type of work. Whereas before, yeah, we knew Jordan rookie, we knew Manning rookies, we knew Moss rookies. You want to keep them. You get them graded. Don't just immediately flip them. You can hold on to them. They're not going to depreciate.
Right.
Now they want the ultra modern grade, and it's tough to have these people that you want to pick these collections up from. And you've been collecting somebody for a good number of years. You sort of know where the market is, and you don't want to be like, well, it's inflated because he's gotten better. Terrell Davis hasn't gotten better. Like, he hasn't rushed for another 1,000 yards. He hasn't rushed for another 15 touchdowns. The market's fucking wonky because you got new blood in here. You've got old blood watching new blood talk about cards and thinking they've stumbled across like a 49er gold mine out in California. It's not. I agree there should be some uptick in some of this stuff, but not to the degree some of these people think their cards are, or they're putting the card values at, or the prices at. Because some of these prices are absolutely obscene, and I'm sort of glad, and I wish, because the one I showed you that I won, I was hoping, because he messaged me, said, hey, I got another one, that card. I'm like, I didn't want to get back to him right away because I'm like, I got to figure out a price because I'm not going to offer the
Right.
price that I paid for the one in August or July, where I got bid up at the end, and that's fine. I'm willing to pay that price because it's my guy. It's Josh Johnson.
And you'll do it all day long.
Yeah, and I thought $80. That would have been like my sweet spot if I had just thrown out a number. And to get it under that, when you saw what my max was.
Oh yeah, I saw it.
And I told Michael that too because he was lamenting about the Contenders Optic Veteran Clay Super Golden Swirls or whatever the hell it's called, Champagne Swirls. Because he's like, I didn't want to pay X amount, and somebody paid like 50 to 75 more, and I regret that so much now. I said there's a lot of that stuff 8-10 years ago with Johnson that I regret. At the time, I wasn't in a position to put some bigger numbers on it.
Right.
And at that time, I was still trying to hit along with some of these other guys. I agree.
Well, I dug myself a hole to a certain degree in those prime years, so to speak. And granted, I enjoyed the hell out of it. I'm not gonna lie. But at the same time, there was a financial impact, so to speak. Not to the point to where it's like I'm coming in with a fire type situation, and then all of a sudden now you're seeing me going, okay, $4, $1. You know what I mean? And start, trying to move stuff and everything else. It just, I've sold other stuff. I mean, who doesn't? It's a nature of the beast. But at the same time, I probably could have done it a little bit differently. And that's why I always talk about, I'm on a more fixed budget these days. I've got to be very forward thinking because there was it a 96, 98 PMG? Buy it now, best offer $500. And it's like, man, I'd love to have it. Love to have it. But I had just one, I had all the stuff on the TNT list, and there was that small handful of cards that I wanted. One that got shot out of the water early on, which royally pissed me off. By the way, that's what it ended up selling for that I sent you. It didn't move. But that was way more than what I was willing to pay. But I had the TNT stuff on the list. I had the Germany deal I'm trying to work. And it's like, nice thing about it is I didn't get a chance. Somebody bought it. And, I ain't got a spare $500 laying around. Just saying. I don't. I'm not in a position to be able to have that sort of liquid income. That doesn't mean that down the road that doesn't change. But I'm a lot more selective, even though that's a huge card and something that I would love to have added. I am able to be a little bit more selective. And like the deal with the out of Germany, there's only one super rare card out of the whole deal, and it's numbered to 5. Not trying to downplay it, but everything else is within the few serial numbers are 100, 150. There's a few in the lower 200s, 300s area. There's a few 1,500, 1,000 type situation. So it'll be nice to work out a deal in hopes that I can get it, because it'll add another 60 plus cards to the collection. So I think it will take me closer if I look at my checklist real quick. As I make some noises along the way. Because I did this earlier. I think it puts me... Whoops. It helped if I actually did this right. I went the wrong direction. Rough estimates, it'll actually take me to a little over 58% for 95 through 2014. So,
And that's the thing with that type of stuff. You've got, we'll eventually broach the subject of burnout. You've got enough.
Carlos.
You can sit there and be like, well, yeah, I really want that PMG. That money can be flipped to, let's say, 60 to 70 cards.
Yeah.
Put a huge dent in that overall number, and you still can be happy. Like, you know what? This PMG isn't going to go down. Will it go up? Yeah.
Probably.
But you know what? All these other ones, where they're sort of at that basement right now, or maybe they're crawling up the basement, there's still some room for growth. I mean, eventually people start looking at the football market, not like we've said it. Well, it's not going to be basketball. That's international. That's something pretty much anybody can play. You get a ball, you get some sort of hoop or a basket, literally, or an old milk crate that doesn't have the bottom. You can play basketball. Football, you can't. You can throw football around in the park, but you can't go in like the barrio of Mexico City and toss the football around because there's just no room. That's, again, more of an American sport.
Yep.
So, I mean, you're not going to have the huge worldwide collector base, like, really gravitate, again, unless it's a Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Rodgers, people that are key figures in the sport. So that helps you, where you can pick up, A, it's cool, B, you don't have it, C, it's cheap, relatively speaking, and you can pick up quantity and still get quality. You're not just picking up quantity.
Yep. Well, and PMG, it's an iconic insert set. The name itself, it's iconic. And, as you best put it, $500 for one card, or, potentially $500 for, 60, 80, 100, 200 cards maybe. Mm-hmm. And you just don't know. And, as I've always alluded to, right now, it would be very hard for me to justify that kind of expense to plug one hole, mm-hmm. or spend that kind of money to plug a substantial number of holes. And, although what I've accomplished so far, I'm very proud of what I've accomplished to date. Mm-hmm. But I'm nowhere near where I could be satisfied to sit there and say, you know what? I feel like I've done all I can do. I'm satisfied with this. Now where else can I go? Mm-hmm. Would I always try and look for stuff to add? Absolutely. That's never going to go away. But in my head, and this is kind of the prelude to the whole burnout thing, in my head, I have this number, this percentage number, to where once I reach that, I'll be good. If I don't pick up another Terrell Davis card, I would be satisfied. Just saying.
See, you can do that too. You can be like, I want to pick up playing days. I have an X amount for that. Through 14, I've got X amount for that. Let's say through today, I've got X amount. I want these percentages. That's where I want to hit these benchmarks. And
that's where I'm leaning towards. And once I get to those, I can say, you know what, I'm good. What now can I focus on? Where can I shift? Because although I do substantial number of searches for Terrell Davis, I'm not going to tell you the number of times I do my searches per day, because that would be just stupid. Mm-hmm. I know I'm not the only one who does it, but, you know, as a player collector, you do it frequently. You know, Carlos, I'm sure, does multiples. I know you do multiples. I'm sure Matt probably does multiples. You know, JT does multiples. Not saying, so maybe once I reach that point, the searches won't be as frequent. And, you know, I've had multiple times in my hobby career, so to speak, and we've touched on this in other episodes, to where, you know, I'll shift focus, so to speak. You know, maybe I get tired of adding Terrell Davis stuff. I know that's kind of hard to believe because it is my main PC guy. It's my main player focus and everything else. How could you be tired of it? Well, that's the whole thing. You can, I don't want to use the term burnout, but you can kind of, the passion and the drive and the love is still there. But at the same time, it's like, damn, what else is out there? What other opportunities are there? And, you know, there's times in which I wasn't driving so much on the Terrell Davis stuff. I was, you know, focusing on my certified mirror gold sets. Mm-hmm. You can remember those times. Or you would see more Denver Bronco autos or autographs than you would Terrell Davis stuff. You would see that shift. And that's what kind of, you know, kept it fresh for those prime years of YouTube. And, you know, at least for me right now, refinding the fire for the Terrell Davis stuff because of the craziness that's going on in the hobby right now. There's a lot of things that have been listed and coming out that I haven't seen before. And it's nice to be able to take advantage of those situations and pick up, you know, a lot of cards that I haven't seen. Always known they've been on the checklist, but I've never seen. And to have the opportunity to even try and win them consistently fuels that fire. But there is a other part of me that what else could I do? And I know, and I don't remember what video it was of Carlos's, but I think it was his most recent Mail Day video talking about side projects. You know, and that's one thing that is a way to avoid the burnout. Mm-hmm. If you really think about it. Don't go crazy, because you don't ever want to sock money into a side project to the extent of where when you have an opportunity to pick up a big card for your main player collection, it's like, oh shit, I spent all this money over here on these side projects. Now I don't have money in the budget to pick up X. As a player collector, usually you find a way. Let's be realistic. If it's reasonable, you find a way. Somehow, shape, form, or fashion, the stars align and just miraculously, you know, it happens within reason. But to have side projects and, you know, to be able to focus on a few other things to where you're not just so hyper focused is a good way to keep things fresh. And, you know, I know he has. I don't know why I said I know why he, or I know he has. You're right here. I know you have, because you know I'm talking about you, Carlos. You have your Soto, and you know you have your Jamie Benn as far as rookie stuff is concerned. And then watching that video and seeing some of the other side projects that you have, fairly inexpensive, that keeps things fresh for you, and it keeps you constantly looking for other things and finding other things to enjoy for whatever reason. You know, I'm not a fan of Black Diamond. This is me personally. I like the concept, but I'm speaking also from a football perspective. Hockey is different. And the premium cuts in hockey, in your little side project, they have eye appeal. Football, not so much. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the way that the players are pictured. I don't know. I'm not a fan of hockey, and I'm going to say it. There will still not be a hockey collection. And no, there's not a closet hockey collection. There won't be one. But those premium cuts look nice. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with the way that, or the photography that was used in order to design the card. They are aesthetically pleasing to the eye.
I'm going to rip through some comments here because I know I'm way behind on that, but I wanted to get a chunk of them. I agree with that, Kevin. At the same time, singles, that's always a way to go. I love ripping wax, but somebody out there, they're going to keep ripping it no matter the price. It sucks for kids to get in there. Matt, I think, makes a valid point, too. It's like not everybody's trying to make money. Again, a lot of people now are, but it's just the nature of the beast. Everything's so hot. The digital stuff, that's something I'll never get into. I'm a tangible person. I need to hold a card in my hands. I'm not going to sit there and... yeah, I can't. I know... I
have them. It's a change of pace type thing. But that's it. I agree. It is. There is nothing better than physically holding something in your hand. And from the digital perspective, if they took it to the extent of, yes, I own something digital, but hey, I want to pay $2, $3. I want you to make that freaking card, and I want it in my hand. Mm-hmm. That's different. But just something digital, I do it as a change of pace, so to speak. This keeps me opening packs, so to speak, and I'm not having to spend any money. I've put very, very little into my digital collection, so to speak, and that's just because there's some sets that I like and stuff like that when they release them. But nothing compared to what the hobby is like now. And I can do this for almost pennies on the dollar, so to speak, from a pack opening perspective. But you're right. I prefer to hold something tangible over the digital stuff.
And what's going on, Carlos? So it made me look more at the comments. I'm like, shit. And yeah,
that's why I knew Carlos was here.
If you don't know, you're not up on your game. There's a lot of the Dumba stuff. I've seen like a patch. I'm like, what the fuck is that? That's not a real card. And then go look. It's a digital card. I'm like, pass.
And some of those sell for stupid money. Some of those blockchains,
Mm-hmm.
Help me understand what you're actually buying.
When they put that in Flawless this year? Football? I'm like, you've got to fucking be kidding me.
Yep. Hundreds of dollars.
I know.
Carlos being a smart ass. What else is new?
I can't believe that. Okay, here. Yeah, that's the thing. We'll get to it more in depth. Jamie Langenbrunner was a local guy 2 hours-ish away from you. He went to Cloquet Esco Carleton High School. So I got to watch him in high school play hockey. So when he made it.
Bless you, by the way.
It's a complicated last name there. Vinny, what's going on? And then
no, I'm not missing out, Matt.
Matt's missing the egg.
No.
Yeah, don't pick Turco. There's a dude on Instagram that's got just a absolutely insane Turco collection. I just recently followed him, and there's, I don't know, it makes that guy and then with an Ovechkin collector that make my Josh Johnson hoarding look like peanuts.
That's big money, man.
I know. I mean, and I don't know if this was Jeremy on Sports Cards Live the other night or Carlos had mentioned it, but there's like 6-8 of the property of like the stick, which is basically like a bat barrel piece for the hockey world. And I'm like, those can't be cheap. I mean, that's got to be $300-400 a pop years ago.
Or more.
Yeah.
I can't do it. If I had more in the card budget, maybe, and I'll say a slight maybe. The only hockey project that I would be willing to tackle at some point would be the championship year. And it would be an on-card autograph and a Dallas Stars uni for that championship team. And that would be it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those in which I enjoy the sport for it's fun as hell to watch. It's fun as hell to go to the games. It's a great sport. It's not one in which I've followed enough to where I would invest the time or the energy and the financial means to focus on something. I don't, and for you, Dave, I still don't know how you do it because you have multiple player PCs. You know, it's not to the extent of where, I mean, Josh Johnson is your guy. But at the same time, from the hockey side, you're borderline coming up on super collector status, I would say, for Brodeur. Just saying. I mean, you've acquired a lot of stuff in these past few months, and it's been phenomenal. You know I'm going to watch it. I still watch Matt's videos. I still watch Carlos's videos. To support you guys first and foremost, but I have an appreciation for a lot of what you guys show. I'm a 90s guy. That was my prime spending years from a collection perspective. So there's that appreciation. And I can kind of live vicariously through you guys as if I collected hockey. But there's never been a spark that's turned into anything from a hockey perspective. Not saying I've never bought hockey packs in my years. I think the only years in which I bought any hockey was like 94, 95. But 94, 95, and it was looking for the masks because the card shop had a few in the display case, and they caught my eye, and I'm like, these are really freaking cool. And of course I didn't pull one. And as quick as that spark kind of sparked, it went away. It's like, I can't have too many focal points in my collection. And that's the thing, because, in the 90s, the mid to late 90s, it was all about busting product. It was all about, okay, how many boxes can I get for X dollar amount? And just would sit there and open packs and love every freaking minute of it. It wasn't until, I want to say, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, that it's like it finally clicked. Why am I spending all this money on product in hopes to get something big, nice? Why bother? Why bother? Yes, it's fun, and that's supposed to be the enjoyment of it. But at the same time, you spend X number of dollars on a box of cards, you want to hope that you pull something decent. Although that's not the most important part, but you don't want to spend $200 on a box and get, $30 worth of value. I mean, that's a kick in the nuts. And that's the reality. Not that, like I said, not that that's what it's supposed to be about, but always in the back of your mind, you're always going to think about that. Holy shit, I spent $200 on this box of cards, hoping to get, A, B, C, or D. I got $30 worth of value, and I didn't get anything near what I was hoping to get. I could have spent that $200 and gotten A, B, C, and D potentially, and maybe still had some money left over. So it was one of those in which I finally, it's like the light bulb went off. Stop freaking spending all this freaking money on boxes and just buy what you want. And there's nothing out there right now other than my focal point that has sparked my interest to where I feel like that's what I need to do. I've been very fortunate, at least these days, as of late, to where there's been, like I said, there's been a lot more Terrell Davis stuff popping up. And I've at least had the opportunities to make a run for them. So.
Show you a couple. I know you love hockey. I don't know if you can see it there. I don't know if you can see it.
No, I see it.
And I'd shown, I think that, and I don't know what video it was, but maybe when Carlos.
See, that's cool. I mean, that is cool. That's the hollow foil on the freaking die cut edges and everything else. I mean, that's a pretty freaking card.
think when I was on with Carlos, I showed the other one because he's got 2 in the set. This is the subset version. So yeah, I've been able to pick stuff up because of good fortune financially. That when you get in a car accident and you're cut a check and you're a passenger in it, so you don't expect anything, nor do you really want anything, but they cut you a check, okay? Then the stimulus, okay? Then you sell a bunch of basketball cards, okay? So I've done a little work to put in towards cards, and this is the best year I've had for, I'm not going to say it's not free money. So obviously I've had to pay shit in for cards, but just finally getting some good luck card-wise. And it's been more than I'm used to, and it's helped me pick up, as I've said in a lot of the videos, stuff that I never would have expected in my collecting life to come across.
Right.
I had mentioned the guy that I got those brochures from. He's another collector, and I don't know if he has doubles or not, but he's like, I'd be willing to sell the precious metals if you offered. And I showed him a picture because I don't think I put that on Instagram, but I've got 20 pictures, and I don't like dumping them. I used to just dump everything on there, show everything in one shot, and I'm like, try to space it out 1 or 2 days apart just to give more stories there too. And he's like, I'd be willing to dump that. And I'm like, well, I've got this. And I was like, fuck, that's killer. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, how much did it cost? Told him how much it was. I said, I missed the previous 2 that I had seen. This had a ridiculous starting bid, but it also had the best offer. So it's like 15 minutes left, hoping to go through next to Lake Superior one morning. I'm like, okay, throw an offer. Let's see where it goes. In 5 minutes, it was accepted. So I didn't even have to worry about the grading. And again, with that card, it's not necessarily like a Fleer Jordan rookie or like some 55 tops or something like a 71 tops with a black border. You don't need it graded.
No.
But quad 9.5s for $10-15 more than the last raw one went. Whatever. It didn't matter.
Yeah, that's a waste.
So, and he's just like, man, you got a fucking deal on that. So, yeah, and that's helped me not get burnt out. Obviously, money always helps. That we know that. There's a windfall of money. You can obviously not. You don't need to sock it away, or you can put some away. And then, well, now I got a little slush fund to work with. What are some things within reason,
right,
that I want to pick up? And there's other stuff I'd mentioned I wanted. I wanted the Gursky Auto, Ernie Nevers. Nobody was coming down to where I felt comfortable, especially for the stuff that was out there. I'm like, I want specific cards. I know what I want. And if they're not up, I just won't get them. And then the totally certified platinum or gold or whatever to 59, the guy wouldn't budge off his price more than $100 or whatever. It's like, no, I'm not spending over $1,000 on that.
Yeah, I'll wait for another opportunity.
Yeah,
even though you may regret it because it could be 3 years down the road. But at the same time, as we always talk about, don't ever go more than what you're comfortable paying.
Yeah.
If it's $10, $15, that's a lot easier to justify than, hundreds of dollars, because you will always have people out there. And this is the one thing that agitates me about sellers on eBay to a certain degree. If you're going to put a best offer out there, then 2 things. If somebody submits an offer, don't just decline it. That's the worst thing you can do, because you run the risk of basically running off a potential buyer. Also, don't counter to the point to where it's only a few days off of your, or a few dollars off of your buy it now price. To me, that means you are emotionally attached to said card and you really don't want to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're emotionally attached to something, it's a lot harder for a potential buyer to purchase said item. If you're still emotionally attached to stuff, don't sell it. I mean, if you're looking for, market value on something along those lines, I get it. I mean, it is like a barometer to a certain degree. It can potentially give you some ideas, but at the same time, don't put it up, because it's, what purpose does it serve, especially if you put it up at such a dollar value in which you're having to pay to list it. If it's a free listing type situation and it's not costing you any money, then okay, great. But at the same time, don't put it up there to where you really don't even intend to sell it.
And with this, I think you're talking about like, okay, don't put, let's say for whatever reason, you didn't have SP
Okay.
Terrell Davis rookie. Somebody put one up, and let's say whatever reason it was like limited. It was a more limited copy. So instead of like a $10 buy it now, it was up there for like 200. The card books for 20, let's say. Recent sales have been anywhere between like 15, 28. So you've got something up for 200. You offer 15 to 28 is the barometer. You offer like 1650. He comes back with like 198. That's just not feasible. It's stupid. But if you've got something rarer, I get it. Or like a Joe DiMaggio cut auto, Mickey Mantle like patch card, or like one of the old Upper Deck jersey cards. Something where there isn't a lot going around. I get where you have like a higher price. If you offer $5 on that, you should get kicked in the nuts. That's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Just
I wasn't going to that extreme though either.
I know. I'm just I want to clarify where we're not offering. Here's a PSA 9 Mantle, fucking 51 Bowman. Well, I'll offer 100.
Yeah,
I'll cover your grading costs. Shut up. Just go swim in the ocean during a riptide.
I'm referring to myself submitting offers on things, and it's one of those in which I do my research before I submit an offer, because I put myself in the seller's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
If I put something up for $50, buy it now, best offer, and they sell anywhere between, let's say, 35 and 60.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's a pretty good happy medium. And let's say I were to offer somebody 35 and you decline it without anything, that's what I'm referring to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I have never sent a lowball offer on anything, but as a seller, I have seen some lowball offers that it's like, are you fucking serious? And in those situations, I am 100% behind you. Those situations, you don't deserve an explanation. Mm-hmm. Decline, block, and I'm 100% in agreement with that aspect. But for somebody who takes the time to submit a reasonable offer, take an opportunity and work with the individual, because it really comes down to like a barter. So if something's listed for $50 and you come and you offer 35, to me that's a reasonable offer. Don't just decline it and like, well, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're wanting $50 for something, then don't put a best offer. Or when you list it, set that minimum, because some of those are auto declines. Mm-hmm. I've had auto declines in those situations. And you're sitting there going, well, I thought that was fairly reasonable, at least to start the conversation. And it's an auto decline because it happens immediately. And in those situations, you have the possibility of turning off those potential buyers, is all I'm getting at. If you're wanting $50 for something, then get rid of the best offer. Or set the precedent to where, allow offers over X dollar value to basically come to me and review and everything else. I like the whole buy it now best offer thing, and I know there are certain situations in which, and I know a lot of people have done it, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing. One situation, Dave, in which you shared with me, and this has been a while, and it still pisses me off because this is still a card that I want. And you may or may not know where I'm going with this, but the 93 Pinnacle Rookies Dufects of Drew Bledsoe. You even said you sent a lowball offer. And it paid off. It wasn't disrespectful low offer by any stretch of the imagination, but you yourself said, I shot low. And he accepted. There are certain situations in which that does pay off. You're never going to sit there on a card that consistently sells from, let's say, $15 to $25. You're not going to submit a $5 offer and expect to win it. Mm-hmm. It just set the expectations early on, I guess. And there's been times that I've set the minimum offer thing on eBay when I've listed something, because I don't want to waste my time to where I'm getting, offers for 15, 25, 30% lower than average what they've sold for. Don't waste my fucking time. Mm-hmm. You're damn right. I'm going to let them auto decline every single time because I got more important things to worry about. There's good things and bad things when it comes to the whole buy it now best offer stuff. And for those individuals that have dealt with those situations, like you've alluded to, it's almost insulting in certain situations, which I can understand. But it's all about what that personal preference looks like, or what that gauge you have, which dictates the when those situations to be, automatically decline and block and basically say, go pound pavement. Because those are people that just they don't need to be around. It's either that or they've gotten extremely lucky in certain situations and thinking that that's just a thing. But most people are not going to just automatically accept the first offer that comes into play, especially if it's something that is so substantially lower than the average selling price. And, you know, and then there are situations, you know, when you have cards numbered to 5, numbered to 3, 2, 1, whatever, there's nothing to go off of.
No.
And, you know, those are one of those in which you kind of sit and let it ride and see what happens. Always have that predetermined mindset of what you're willing to take for something. But don't shoot yourself in the foot, though, either, to where, you know, you put buy it now best offer at $9,999 and it's the offensive lineman for Detroit who's, you know, on the practice squad. It just, you know, do the research.
Yeah, I run into a lot of that with a lot of the guys that have collected and still collect that are absolute shit. Walter Reyes, Gino Gaduli, Mike Sims Walker. I'm not paying tons of money for the one-on-ones. There was a guy on, he used to be on the message board when he was a dick. He thought his shit was just the best, but then when I think he collected Torrey Holt, when he wanted somebody's Torrey Holt shit, he was always lowballing. It's like, dude, you can't fucking think your stuff is the best. Or no, Brunel. It was a Brunel collector. And you have Gino Gaduli, whatever it is, Superfractor Finest. Yeah, I'll pay like $40 for that. But you want 85. No, it's a Superfractor. That's great. It's Gino Gaduli. He played in like the Arena Football League 2 with Green Bay. He didn't even get to the main Arena League. So what? I'm not spending that money. He's not my dad. He's not my uncle. Not a cousin. Not my neighbor. Not my boss. I mean, it's Gino fucking Gaduli. So I get people where they have, let's say, if you have like one of those Score 92, like the Ted Williams autographs from the pack, like the manager I think was in there too, and Yastrzemski. Let's say you got that triple auto. Yeah, you should have a high price on that because those are tough as fucking thin to find. But if you got like a Carl Yastrzemski, whatever, 2005 Donruss product, like Legends or whatever it was, that's an unnumbered auto, and you got it up to like 300. Let me know who your dealer is because I want to feel that too. That's insane pricing on a Yastrzemski auto, which more than likely you can get between like 15 and 35 for a lower end one. You're not going to get $200, $300, $400 just because he's in the Hall of Fame. And that's where a lot of people just read into, well, I remember this name. Oh, he played back when Mickey Mantle played. He must have been great. He was a very good player, no doubt about that. But I mean, when you talk relative to like collectability, that's always a different subject. You can be Hall of Famer Bobby Doerr. Guess what? He's signed anything that was put in front of him. So there's 8 billion autos of him out there.
Right.
That makes this stuff less desirable unless you're a Red Sox fan. So it just, yeah, people and what they think their cards are worth and what they actually are worth, it's always, I find it to be fun to do the best offer stuff. Because I'm like, you got it up for like $99. I'd pay like 40. I'll go like 38.50. They'll come back with like 80. I'm like, come on now, it's a Josh Johnson, whatever it is here. Like a triple patch or some kind of a triple threads like to 3. I'm like, I'll pay because I don't have the card. I'll pay
Right.
even if I have the card because there isn't much for Johnson out there that's being listed all the time. But don't think you've got a fucking Tatis Jr. triple auto to 3. That's we're in galaxies apart, and the quicker you realize that, the quicker we'll get a deal done.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, it's the current market, as we all know, is extremely volatile. And for those who are just getting in because they're seeing dollar signs and everything else, maybe they're not doing enough of their analysis. From my perspective, when I look to list cards and everything else, I do my best to do my due diligence. What was the last X number of listings? Look at the time span, making sure that something phenomenal didn't take place during that time for said player that would potentially spike the prices and everything else. And, I try and be reasonable. But at the same time, you have a lot of individuals, for whatever reason, who just want to throw numbers up there. And there's a lot of people out there. And, I don't know if anybody else has experienced it with, their certain player or whatnot. I can speak specific from a Terrell Davis perspective that there's a few people out there that are listing select rookies for $300. Not graded, just a regular base rookie. You've got them doing the same thing with the 95 SP. You have them doing things with, a newer modern card that, is an insert that's not even serial numbered at, $100 and $200. And you're going, what are these people smoking? And, to me, in those situations, what's going on, Bob?
That's guys. Oh, yes.
In those situations, if some of those sell because their buddy ended up purchasing said card and it's not even a legitimate sale, because let's be realistic, those situations happen.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to manipulate the market for whatever reason becomes an ultimate detriment in the end, because when you try and falsify information, especially for cards in the 90s, for instance, unless you're talking Peyton Mannings and Randy Mosses and some of the bigger name guys, I don't understand the thought process behind it. I get it. Terrell Davis is in the Hall of Fame. I'm very happy about that. He's my guy, but I don't understand manipulating those prices, I guess, for somebody who's not, like a Peyton Manning or we'll go even newer, like a Patrick Mahomes, and because we're talking about two completely different eras, playing eras, so to speak, or rookie eras, I should say. And you look at a Peyton rookie and compare it to a Mahomes rookie, and you're talking like apples to oranges almost in certain situations. Manipulating something from those players' perspective, I guess it makes sense if you're trying to make a buck. But to try and manipulate the data or manipulate the market for, two of Terrell Davis's best rookie cards, I don't get it. I've never understood it. But
no, you're always going to have like the diehard Marino, Emmett, Aikman, Montana at the back end, but you didn't really have like that 94 contenders, the back-to-back, I think with Elway. I think he was on, maybe. But that's like his biggest, I'd say, insert card. If Montana, to sit there and create this false sense of scarcity or desirability. And again, not knocking TD, but his time was limited. He's sort of like the Josh Johnson times 2. He had probably, 6 good years, because I know 1 or 2 of those years were injury years. And Johnson had 2.5 to 3 good years. So
95 to 2001, and 2000 and 2001 were played with injury.
So it's like, yeah, he had great numbers, but it's not like he had Walter Payton, Gale Sayers, Jim Brown, even like a John Brockington. He didn't have these monster. He had monster numbers, but he didn't have 10 years. He didn't have. It wasn't like, okay, Barry Sanders. He had a move. He had the cutback. The offense was perfect for him. Jim Brown had, I'm gonna fucking run you over. I'm a fucking bad motherfucker. Barry Sanders had, he was a human joystick.
Yeah.
So again, where those guys maybe, okay, Barry Sanders didn't have success with the team. Detroit was always shitty. Jim Brown had a short career too. They had those discernible traits or something that really stuck out. So it's like, okay, I can really get behind that. Terrell Davis, again, not knocking him in any way, shape, or form. He just didn't have that. The one thing you're like, oh, fuck, that's what I know Terrell Davis to do. That's his move, whatever it is. It's just like...
He was a one move, and through the line.
One cut, and that was it. But again...
Yep.
He did it very well.
But he had a hell of a good offensive line, though, too.
Well, yeah, that's... When people blame Emmitt Smith for that, it's like, well, blame the Minnesota Vikings for that. The Walker deal sort of gave them a boatload, a plethora of ammunition to pretty much pluck anyone and everyone out, because they traded multiple firsts, multiple seconds, I think thirds too. So it's like, at what point in time do you give them credit for fleecing the Vikings? It wasn't just like they drafted luckily. It was when you have 2 1s, 2 2s, or 3 2s, or 3 3s, you better hit on some of these guys. So yeah, it's tough. It's trying to find that happy medium, especially when you're trying to find or purchase something you really want, and seeing the price, and you start negotiating. It's almost against yourself when you start thinking, well, I really only want to pay $40 for this card. He came down to $60. If I can get him at $50, I'll feel good about it. And then you get it, and you're like, well, hopefully nothing else comes up, or this one doesn't pop up down the road, because you feel bad about paying $50. But there again, we've said it before, don't feel bad about, or don't regret a purchase. But if you're willing to go up $10 from your max, obviously it's something that you haven't seen for a while. So again, just try to always use the best judgment you can to procure whatever it is for your collection.
No, absolutely. And, to try and circle back on, the topic to a certain degree. And it's more along the lines of from your perspective, because we all kind of collect differently. You have multiple players. What do you find is the easiest way for you to kind of keep things fresh from your various collecting preferences in your players? Josh Johnson not included, because I know that's the main guy. But do you like do certain searches more frequently for, let's say, Brodeur than you would, let's say, for a Wah or a Dumba or Mike Sims Walker or anything along those lines? Do you kind of alternate your searches from a weekly perspective, or or do you always search the same things every day?
There's again, with the wide breadth of what I collect, I can go a week doing my usual searches and I'll forget shit. It's just because there's too much. And I've admitted it. People tell me that's too much. I get it. It's the Hall of Fame patches. I just started looking back at those too, because like the 06 NT, I love that set. The 07 NT, the 08. I'm always looking at that stuff. McCone, Northcutt, Kerry Collins, Dumba, Brodeur, Sims Walker, Steve Olin, Johnson. Sure, I'm missing a handful. I'd say I do those most every day. Brodeur, it's all the time. It's more than Johnson because Brodeur has more stuff. I mean, he's got a bigger span of time where I'm looking at to pick up stuff that he was active, and there's a lot of nice cards in those eras there, that era. But I'll look up like Hall of Fame autos. I'll look up Hall of Fame patch. Once in a while, just because, again, money. Him and Brodeur, if I went hard after both of them, I wouldn't have any money for anything else ever. Josh, if I did a collection thing like I did with the Dumba the other day, it'd probably be a 40-minute video. I've got, I think, 1 4-row full of him and maybe like a 2 or 3-row half filled. But there's so much that I look up. And Bledsoe, Curtis Martin. I'll even look up Terrell Davis just because I'm fucking curious. Eddie George, Keyshawn Johnson. I mean, I start going through every player. The worst thing I've started doing lately, because you can really tell when people don't have a life, is when they start watching old NFL primetime episodes. So I've been doing that, like alternating like a couple crash videos, the primetime, then crash videos. Nobody's got the stuff sequentially, like week 1, 2, 3 throughout. They've got like 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 13, 14, 17. I'm like, well, where the hell's the other numbers? Because I want to see this stuff. I want to remember these players. I mean, most of them, it's Jeff Blake, Carl Pickens, Darnay Scott, Jimmy Smith, McCardle, Brunel, Vinny Testaverde. People you already knew.
Right.
But like, fuck, Quinn Early? Man, I don't remember him doing that much. Or Floyd Turner for the Colts. You're like, wow, he had like 3 touchdowns in the game. Irving Fryar had 4. I knew he was good, but it's like, I'll just look up his stuff to see what's going on there. And I mean, if you find something cool that's cheap, rarish, fine. But yeah, that's just, I don't need to be doing that, and I do, because I love the music of primetime. There's one music clip that rarely ever got played, but when it did, it was just fucking insane. I mean, I go nuts to this day. Ask Trista, she's seen me. I turn it to like 50 on the TV. The beginning has like an electric guitar in it, and like halfway through, it's sort of like the Unsolved Mysteries, like the. So I'm just going bonkers because I loved it. But that's what I do. I'll go off and look at that stuff where I don't need to. Go away. I don't want to look up Fred Taylor, but I do.
Right. But you have your you also have your wrestling stuff, and your not just your figures and stuff along those lines, but even some of like your older VHS stuff. You've always found a way to keep it fresh, I guess, because you have so many different avenues. And what's different between you and I, for instance, is usually when I get burnt out, I go on hiatus.
Mm-hmm.
And not that it's a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. Sometimes people just need a break. And, to part of it's, and I don't want to focus on the negatives, I guess, but, money is always going to be a driver for anybody, for any hobby for that matter. And, there's been times in which I've taken just a flat out break from the sports card perspective. I went down the realm of thinking about getting back into Magic. We've had this conversation before. Did that for a little bit, bought a few boxes, that type of stuff, tried to put together a set because the whole Magic thing, I played it in high school and I enjoyed it. Shit these days it's too complicated for me. Not that I probably couldn't figure it out and pick up a lot of the new mechanics and everything else along those lines, but that was never the enjoyment for me, I guess. As I've said in past episodes, it was the artwork. Not that I'm like I've got a shit ton of art or anything along those lines type situations, but it always intrigued me. And these individuals created pieces of art, and that's what ultimately was turned into the cards. Then, of course, like the flavor text and the dynamics and the mechanics and all that other kind of stuff kind of came afterwards. So bought a few boxes, that type of stuff, tried to put together a few sets, bought a small collection from the old card shop, and it really kind of re-sparked the interest until I started looking at some of the sets that I really enjoyed and everything else. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. Because I wanted to kind of go back to my roots, of course. And so then I kind of like stopped that. And I started looking at, yes, I think it's in the bathroom.
No, it's not. That's just the tension. It's not the migraine.
Then I couldn't tell you.
She's sick from the migraine.
So then it was just like just a straight hiatus. Could I have found opportunities to, kind of re-spark the whole love of set collecting and everything else back into the football card world? There for a while, and I had put it in one of my videos or whatever, showing some of the basketball insert sets as I had started thumbing through some of my boxes. Thinking, okay, well, that's another way to reshift focus and not get burnt out on the lack of Terrell Davis stuff that, was coming out or, being put on eBay and things along those lines. But then it was like that, as quick as that spark started, it dimmed again. And part of that, I think, had to do with work shit. Spending a lot of time trying to deal with issues and everything else. And, having people actually report to you kind of change how you manage your day and things along those lines. But, as of late, seeing some of the influx of some of the things that have been listed has kept me engaged and prevented some of the burnout. But it's all about trying to keep things fresh. You know, I also play paintball. I haven't played in a long time, but you know, it's another expensive hobby, especially if you own your own equipment. You have that initial expense to go play. It's fairly reasonable, but you always have to find that happy medium. And at least more recently, and since we've been doing the podcast and everything else, and being introduced to some of the other individuals and guys that come and hang out during the show and comment, and also do podcast, who also do podcasts, give me something else to watch and look at different perspectives and things along those lines. It's kept it fresh. So this has been the first time in quite some time in which I haven't felt overwhelmed, I guess.
Well, yeah, when you when the hobby starts to feel like a job, or it's just not like, it's not fun. That's when take the foot off the gas. If there's some other stuff you like, I'll mention names. Alan goes to Zepho, fishes, goes fishing a ton now. I've told him put some fishing videos up because I love seeing that stuff. Because if it's somebody that I truly care about, and I know truly cares about me, and they're going to show off what they like doing, fishing, going to like a late model dirt track race on Saturday night, wakeboarding, four-wheeling, snowmobiling, just traveling, like going to like a museum, whatever it is, whatever they like doing, if these are people that I like, and it keeps them putting content and videos and whatnot out, I love that, because I think a lot of us on here look at each other as just one-dimensional. It's like, oh, we like cards. Yeah, that's great. I don't really want to see cards all the time. I want to see other hobbies. I want to see other things that you enjoy. I don't care if you like painting, writing poetry, ripping and shredding on a guitar or on drums. It doesn't matter. I want to see it. Because you know what? If you like it, I'll appreciate you for it, because you'll have the cojones to show, hey, I can do other stuff. I don't just collect cards and that's how it's going to define me, but it keeps everything fresh. AF Cop, Bobby, down in Florida, he's another guy, loves to fucking fish. Has a big family, so he's always said, it's like, my card budget is to the point now where it's very minimal. He's like, I still watch stuff, but at the same time, I just don't have the money to dump into the hobby. That's fine. Show more of your oceanic fishing videos, because I'm obviously not by the ocean. I'm around lakes, but I want to see that. Alex, and I can't remember what his YouTube handle is. He hasn't been on here forever. He was a Dodger fan. He was out in California. He fished too. Things I want to see. Jason, zombie collector. I want to see him talk about not necessarily old shitty movies, horror movies. I want to see him talk about old shitty horror movies, because that's stuff I love. We might not agree again with a lot of stuff, but the horror movie stuff I will jump in on. One of our old guys, and I won't mention him, but the old guard, he loves G.I. Joes, and he does a lot of stuff with G.I. Joes. I wish he'd make videos about it, but he doesn't want to for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. I'd love to see them because again, that's something I know a little bit about. That wasn't my wheelhouse toy. The neighbor kids a block over, that was their fucking jam. So I'd play with them, but it wasn't something I wanted to buy in. I mean, I think some sort of Jeep type off-road vehicle, little small one, and then a couple figures, and that was basically the extent of my GI Joes. But I want to see people and their other passions, and that can very much curtail, for me, what I think, because again, you see with the figures, you see with the videos, Mystery Science Theater stuff. I openly talk about how much time I've wasted with the car crash videos. I mean, it's countless weeks and months. But at the same time, I want to see and know about people. I don't want to just know, hey, I like cards. That's it. Well, what else do you like? And that can easily knock down the doldrums of being burnt out on the card side. If there's something else, knives. If you love knives, if you got a Bowie knife or whatever, and a fillet knife, whatever. If you like, hey man, the design on this is cool as shit. Show it. Again, you might not get the normal views you would normally get. You might not get the normal comments you normally get, but you probably get some people you didn't know like that stuff in the community. Some people you didn't even know about. So I don't know. That's one way I've liked, and I wish like Alan would post his fishing videos because he's like, that's all I want to do is go fishing. Show it.
Yeah, so I noticed Ty posting a comment, and for whatever reason, so his last response shows up, but Vinny asked a question. So this is I guess the advantage of me also having the live stream up on YouTube. He asked, do you ever go and look at just types of cards like PMGs or some insert and say who has one of them rather than said player? And then, Ty jumped in, but he's like, I see a Lemieux I have, and I'm like, Malkin, Ovechkin, or someone else I follow in the NHL and see if I can grab one. So in other words, do you look at like certain cards in your collection, I guess, for instance, and say, I have this card, somebody else, for instance, that you followed, do they have the same type of card in like later sets, or even in the same set, for instance? It doesn't have to be later sets or anything along those lines. It's hard to compare Lemieux and then Malkin and Ovechkin and stuff like that, because talking about completely different eras of hockey. And I have a feeling I know the answer to that question from your perspective.
First, we'll get to this. This is what I see for comments from this was before, and this is the one I see after it. So there could be a bunch in between that it just didn't pop up.
So you don't see, Ty, I see a Lemieux and I'm like.
And then underneath, then I see that.
Okay, so you see those. Yeah, so you're only missing the one.
Okay.
And that's why when Ty said what he did, I'm like, okay, we're obviously missing something. So that's when I went over to YouTube, and that's when I posed the question, do you ever go and look at just types of cards like PMGs or some insert and say who has one of them rather than your said player?
I try to. And again, there was the Destination Honolulu 98 EX 2001 insert set. Ryan Leafs in the set. I'd like to pick that up because I used to own that, and I sold that long ago. But they don't pop up. They're one in every probably 2 or 3 cases. It's like a 1 in 720. And I know EX was a different pack out case wise and pack wise. It wasn't.
I think it was 24. I still think it was 24 packs per box. Maybe it was 20.
But case wise, I don't think it was like 20 boxes in a case or. But that would be one.
Could have been 8, 12, something in that vicinity.
Yeah. That's one I picked up a lot of 4. I failed to show 2 of them because they're the same. One of them I'm going to send a collector that doesn't know. He knows he's getting something, but he doesn't know what he's getting. But that's one example there. The Dilger, that would be another one. That just happened to be, again, another looking for Bledsoe. That was the one of the newest listed things, and I'm like, But that wasn't like looking that specific set up, finding that card for cheap. That was just the needle in the haystack sort of situation there. Otherwise, and I'm sure there's been times I know I've done it. Nothing's popping to the old frontal lobe right now. But I know I've done it before because I want to have something in hand. And even if it's like the Favre, I go through a little Favre phase. I want to pick up a Thrill Seekers 97. I've never seen one. I picked the Favre like this up too.
Yep.
Because A, it's a case set, and I want to see what they look like.
Yeah, and all the 97 Skybox Premium I opened, I never pulled one of those either.
This one, I got the Bledsoe like it.
Hall of Fame?
And I had never seen those either. So, again, it's just stuff that it doesn't have to be. Because there's a lot of these sets that now you have people that aren't widely collected. Like Ziggy Palfy. He's in some of these hockey sets, so you can pick some of that stuff up cheap. Like, I've never had one of like the Final Cut or whatever they are. Thankfully, mine, and it wasn't terrible.
Is that the serial numbered version, though? I didn't see it originally.
So yeah, I've seen like the die cut ones, but I've never had the numbered. Thankfully, one of those came up and decent enough price. But for football and hockey, I tried. If I can find something cheap, I'll do it. But I'm not going to break the bank and go after Gretzky, Lemieux, Waugh, unless it's a Waugh I really want, can afford, or like an Emmitt Smith, Marino. It has to. Everything has to work out. The Curtis Martin 97 Black Diamond that I showed you, sort of like the Run for the Cup title quest or whatever it was.
Yep.
That was one. Again, I'd never seen one of anyone, and they get it for like $20. Okay, that's something I would have done anyway. And any player, Yancey Thigpen, Pickens, fucking Bam Morris, whoever would have been, $20 for that. I'll just to get it in hand and go, what is this?
Right. Something that you knew was out there, but they just don't come up ever. And for a reasonable price, that that's always going to be something reasonable price to you at that time.
Yeah.
And you and I have different opinions when it comes to reasonable and not reasonable and everything else, because as we always talk about, it's subjective. I'd have a hard time spending $20 on something for a guy that I could give two shits about, regardless of the rarity.
Yeah.
And that's only because although I appreciate them, there's not an interest to obtain something that of a player that has no significance to me. Now, if we're talking during that time frame, you're talking about a Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith, Brett Favre, those guys during that era or whatnot. Granted, you're probably not going to find one for $20, but at the same time, if you stumbled across something like that, why would you not take advantage of that situation? Curtis Martin, like I said, to me, you stole that card, and I told you that. Curtis Martin was another guy during that era in which, in that situation, I could definitely have justified that expense for something like that. For something, like I said, that doesn't ever pop up, and I would consider extremely rare for whatever reason. It's serial number to 100, but yet you just don't see them. For some of the other stuff, I mean, when you stumbled across the lot with the PMG green, you basically you paid for the PMG green when you bought that lot. I mean, that's really what you paid for, without the individual realizing that that's what you paid for. Something like that, I would have found a way to, get a hold of that, because it's something that you just don't see very often. And when you do, people want ridiculous amounts of money, or they're on auction and they're going to go for ridiculous amounts of money. There are still certain sets for me. It's not player specific. It's not that I look at my Terrell Davis stuff and it's like, okay, who else is in the set? Usually, because of the main years from a Terrell Davis perspective, who's going to be in the set. Outside of his rookie year, who's going to be in the set. Favre, Emmett, Aikman, Curtis Martin, Kerry Collins, potentially early on in his career. Those type of guys, they're going to be in the set. Years ago, there was always an interest in not just building the base sets, certain insert sets. You and I have talked about it before. There's still one set out there, and I'm not going to spoil it. Just saying, because at some point I will put that set together, because I love that set. It's not overly expensive. It's medium size, but the design was just freaking cool. And outside of that one, and some of the ones that I've pulled aside, I don't want to get to the point to where I'm focusing so much on those, we'll call them side projects, to keep things, kind of keep things flowing. Keep that, I don't want to call it the creative juices, but, it's one of those in which, ultimately trying to find other things to kind of keep things fresh and new and different. And, to circle back on, one of Vinny's comments, I know he mentioned, and I don't remember if it was last week or the episode before, and I don't even remember what freaking set it was he was working on, which really kind of pisses me off because I try and remember a lot of those things. But the fact that, he's dabbling into the football stuff. I don't know if that's because we've kind of sparked that interest, or if, that interest has always kind of been there and maybe we just kind of pushed a little bit more into the forefront type situation. But the fact that, he's got 2 more projects that he's now found. So I'm interested. I'm going to put you on the spot here. What's the 2 new projects? And are they football related? Or did you happen to stumble across something from a hockey perspective that maybe that's the set that you're working on? Yes. We'll have a little bit of a lack in talking here. So I know the set, and I know they also have one that's basketball, and I'm pretty sure we talked about this. There's a blue. Is there a blue? A blue and a red variation?
Yeah.
At least I know that is the way it is in basketball. And I think there's one other one that's actually serial numbered. Don't hold me to that, but maybe a green?
Let's say green or yellow.
I want to say there's 3 colors.
More like a neon green or something.
One's the base, one's a variation, and then there's the additional variation that's, okay, blue, red, green. And one of them serial numbered. I'm pretty sure. Okay, so I'm not completely losing my mind. And I'm basing that on basketball only, not football. So that's the set you're working on. So you were able to pick up some. Are you doing just the base? My guess is you're probably just doing the base, because the others could get a little bit more expensive. But on the flip side, what's the other projects that you kind of stumbled across over the weekend? And there is reasons for me asking. Wow, blue set is done. Wow. Nicely done.
I think another set too that I'd pick up just a common, even if it's like a Yateel Green or Pat Barnes rookie, would be that 97 Skybox Premium Rubies. Just because if you haven't seen them in hand, that's something that's...
They're numbered to 50 though. That's...
I know.
That's pricey. That's a lot. That's pricey. And the blue serial numbers, you're probably going to have a hard time finding too, Vinny.
But I mean, for that, like I think like a Yateel Green. $10.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking probably minuscule, and there's been a few Terrell Davises that have circulated again to where they've been, I'd say, fairly inexpensive, under $15, which is cheap, because I want to say mine was, and it's been a few years since I got mine. We've been in the house 8 years this December. I was still at the rental house when I got my version of the Ruby, and I want to say it was damn near under $40. But, it's one of those in which at that point in time, I hadn't seen one. I knew what they looked like because I sent the Isaac Bruce to Scott because that was his guy. And knowing the number of boxes that I opened and only pulling one, I could justify that amount of money to pay for something like that, because it is a gorgeous card. And for anybody who hasn't watched my 97 PC showcase, it's there for you to see. I mean, they're gorgeous. They are freaking gorgeous. And that would be a freaking beautiful set to put together. Not going to do it. But at the same time, I mean, they're beautiful cards. Beautiful. So still waiting for the other projects, Vinny.
Still hope to get Brad fully immersed into the 90s inserts and spend big money on Marino. Just because I know Marino was a guy that was in everything. Emmett in everything. So those two are basically the ones you can sit there and be like,
Barry.
Marino's in there. Emmett's in there. But
Barry was also in them.
Pretty much the breadwinners of the 90s or that mid-90s insert craze.
Yep. And Favre was in a crap ton of stuff too.
I know. Oh, I knew that because I'm sitting there and watching like those countdowns and I'm like,
okay.
I vaguely remember this game.
I saw Heath Miller and Terry Bradshaw. I didn't realize those were the projects. I apologize. So do you have specifics surrounding those? Are you looking at certain time spans? You looking at so completely on the Steeler front? Makes sense. Gotcha. Okay. No, that's
Swan Auto. I've looked for those for I think about 4 years now, and they're few and far between. And obviously, if you've looked at all, you know they're expensive as hell. I think he's got the Proline portraits, and then
does he have Upper Deck Legends? That'd be the only other set that I could think of.
It's like an SP Sign of the Times, like an 02 or an 03, and then there's a gold variation of 25. And that's
that wouldn't
basically
that would not be the set that I would think he would be in. I thought he would have been, somehow in the Upper Deck Legends. Just because they do it for 2 years. They do it 2 years? Maybe 97? They did it 3 years. 97 would have been the first year, and some of those short prints are just stupid.
There's 97, then there are redemptions in there too. Some were redemptions. 97, I think 99. I want to say.
Because I know later years were stickers, though.
Yeah. I think there's
97 was all on card.
01 was on card, I think, and then 05. I remember buying 4 boxes of 05. Because at the time, again, you got, 2 to 4 autos? I don't even remember what it was, but per box.
Don't give me one.
So, and I think we had a bunch of the guys that I still chat with now. We got a case and we got a good deal on it, so I think I paid, what would have been, I think like $80 a box. So I got 4 boxes and I'm like, fuck it, let's try. Let's see what we can do. So I pulled very little. But again, for me never buying wax, it was fun to do that.
Right.
I can get where that gets, I won't say boring, but you're just basically chasing big shit. You're not enjoying it. So man, you're cool. Roddy White rookie. Oh wow, an Aaron Rodgers rookie number to $7.99.
So Vinny, out of curiosity, and I know you just said you're just picking up stuff that you like. Does it have to be Pittsburgh uniform? And there is a reason why I'm asking. Because there's you have to go. I don't even know if I ended up sharing a lot of that, but 2008 Press Pass Legends Bowl Edition. And I'm willing to bet 95% of the people in the card world have no idea. It's Cordell Stewart. Artist proof? Yep, there it is. I see it.
Yeah, that figured So yeah, I guess these just Steeler guys from there. Are you playing days only, or are you obviously with some of the patches and autos? You're doing everything, or just I know you're picking up stuff you like.
Cordell Stewart. Yes,
Well,
I know who
watching that-
Slash is.
Watching those NFL prime times, it's like, fuck, where the hell was he? They got Mike Tomczak in there playing quarterback, and wow, Charles Johnson. So I'm like, I don't even. You could see where you really start getting nostalgic watching that shit.
Well, no. So the reason why I was asking is so 2008 Press Pass Legends Bowl Edition. Most people had no idea that there was a variation to 2008 Press Pass Legends. 2008 Press Pass Legends was a great product in itself. Press Pass Legends was limited production. Every card is serial numbered. And I think like the base set is numbered to 199, and then you have different variations going down from, 50-yard line, 20-yard line, 10-yard line, 5, goal line, whatever. And that's what dictates the serial numbers. They also had autographs. Everything was on card. Beautiful looking set. I'm actually 2 cards shy of finishing the base set, if you can believe it. And eventually I will finish that. Because like I said, I think the base are numbered to 199. But being press pass, they're in their college uniforms. And it's one of those in which if I have some of the serial numbered cards of some of your guys, because it's a beautiful set. It's all foil. I'll go into the office and see if I can't find a couple of them, and I'll show them to you. Not specific to Pittsburgh, but if I can find a way to get in touch with you, I'll send you a few of them just so you have them. They're really, they're pretty cards, but they're college. They're in their college unis, and not everybody likes the whole college uniform thing. So that's the reason why I wanted to bring that up. And I'll make sure for the next episode, if you're here, I'll show you a pretty cool Slash card that I pulled myself. I won't spoil it either, but it is from the 90s.
I don't know.
You're obviously looking for something, Dave.
I don't think I got that far in the.
No, Bob, it is not studs.
There's one, but again, it's.
Oh, you were looking for your patches. Old school.
I think I have them in here. Because once I get to the J's, it's a lot of lot of
The infamous
Glamour.
97 set.
yeah, still incorporated the overall deal I got back. But yeah, there's must be all because I'm just seeing a lot of B's in here.
I think I scared Vinny off.
And then
Yep, I have my TD version.
because I mean right here in a row.
That was
this
Eddie
is-
George, wasn't it?
Yeah. The thing with what I'm showing now, it costs probably more than a lot of people drop, but it helps me, gives me a sense of peace of mind. Like, hey, some of the shit that I'm getting here, it will be worth something, because again, this guy's not signing anymore.
Kind of hard for that to happen.
Or you don't see.
That's a
lots
huge
of his
card,
stuff.
man. Old Night Train.
Or
You did miss something, Vinny. I had mentioned, since you're focused on Pittsburgh, I didn't know if most people shy away from college stuff, but Press Pass Legends Bowl Edition, everything is serial numbered. And if we could find a way to get in touch with each other, if I have some of your guys, I'd be more than happy to send you a few of them if you were interested, but they are in college uniforms. But they're beautiful cards. And they're all serial numbered. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to get here into my closet.
but that's the thing with like a lot of this stuff. I regretted not picking up a lot of the Hall of Fame stuff years ago. I'm sure I've had to pay a lot more. And I don't know if you saw this, Vinny. Was that up there earlier?
Man, I need to find a place to sit my laptop down.
So I love just picking up this stuff. Fun. A lot of it. Did not pay like $100 for that, but
Barry.
20. But I mean, when you look at some of the greats of the NFL, they pale in comparison price-wise to like NBA, even NHL.
I'm going to see if I can find this one card. Probably not. Yeah, I'll have to find it for next week. But it's something that will probably spark Benny's interest since we focus on 90s stuff so much. And it's a card I pulled myself, so it may have a little bit more significance for him if I can find it. Shit. Yeah, I'll have to find it for next week. Because it's obviously in one that I can't get to right now, which is unfortunate. Oh, Ed Reed. Damn, now I'm throwing shit. Keep showing, Dave.
Not a Hall of Famer, but collegiate Hall of Famer, I suppose. Herschel Walker.
So this is the what I was alluding to, Vinny, for the Press Pass Bowl edition. This is what the base set looks like. And they're all numbered to 299 or lower. And I may have some Steelers and stuff. Yeah, the set is beautiful. I mean, I'll have to see if I can't go through some of my stuff. And I'll set aside some of the Steelers, and you can just let me know if that works. But the other card that I was alluding to while you're still showing off stuff, Dave, I will find it for next week. And like I said, since we focus on 90s stuff, there should be an appreciation for it. And it's something I pulled myself. Just saying. But it is a slash. I'm actually going to message it to Dave so he knows what I'm talking about. Cortez.
Mm-hmm. Again, doesn't have a ton out there. I think I got that for 40, and I didn't feel good about it. But at the same time, it's not like he's got tons of stuff to choose from.
That's it. That's the only thing I can't remember, though, Dave. But even if it's not the latter, still a tough card. You think Vinny will have some appreciation though of that?
Should. I'd imagine so.
I know now Vinny's going to be sitting there going, what the fuck is he talking about?
What are they going to pull out this time?
Turn into another Trump victory, and it looks like 2016 all over again. Or does it represent Biden?
Yeah, I'll have to look through. I think I've got two J boxes for the names, and I've got Lambert, Jack Ham, and Johnny Stallworth.
Coming from the guy who usually only dabbles in vintage football. Not the same. I swear sometimes Carlos is just like Bob. He picks his moments when he jumps in.
And for this, I think if, let's say, funds are a little more, I won't say burdensome or troublesome, just something that you've got to be more cognizant of. You can't be dropping X amount of dollars a week just you've got a very finite budget, which again, we all have different budgets in this hobby. And if you have a decent collection of whatever it is, whoever you collect, Lemieux, Madonna, Terrell Davis, Josh Johnson, Bart Starr, Clay Matthews, Brandon Pettigrew, Titus Young, whoever, go back and look through some of that stuff. Enjoy some of it. Because we've said it many times before. I know plenty of other collectors have said it too, that we're always reaching for the next one after we get the last one in the mail. Why not take a little more time if you have to, because certain things don't allow you to constantly pick stuff up. To enjoy that last acquisition, to enjoy one that was maybe a year or two ago that you're like, fuck, I can't believe I got that for X amount, $30, or something numbered to like 25, or a Hall of Famer from '97. You're like, how would I do that? It's I know we all appreciate our collections, and we value obviously what we have, but I think too much of the time, and I'm guilty as anyone, that you're always looking for the next card. What's the next mail day going to be? What's the next one I can cross off the list? What's the next find or deal I can scrounge up? To avoid avoid that, look at what you have. Go back and just take a peek. It doesn't have to be a deep dive where you're cataloging everything unless you want it to be. You can just go back and appreciate what you already have got in.
Well, and that's something that, I doing the PC showcase and stuff has really allowed me the opportunity to enjoy some of the, I won't call them deals, I won't call them steals, I won't call them, you know, overpayments, because there are certain times in which we probably pay more for something than what we wanted to, so to speak. However, it still didn't go over, what we felt was reasonable type situation, to go look at some of the stuff that I've acquired over the years. Because, as a player collector, there's a lot of times in which, and I'm only speaking for me, a lot of my focus is on my spreadsheet. Is this something that I have? Is this something that I need? Type situation. And it's not specifically looking at the actual cards that I have. So to go through and do the PC showcase has really given me more of the opportunity to, like I said, see a lot of the stuff. And some of the things in which I forgot I even had, even though it's one of those in which it may be marked on the spreadsheet, but at the same time, my spreadsheet, most of it is all filtered based on needs, not of cards that I have. So there's a lot of times in which I'll forget that I may have something. And going through and doing the PC showcase gives me the chance to see them and appreciate them. And then, of course, show them off to everybody else in hopes that they can appreciate some of them as well.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of collections out there I'd like to see like Joey, Burt Cat 8. I'd like to see him go through all his Bart Stars. Clint, before he sold off his Cole Hamels. Fuck, I would have loved to see that stuff because that's the Josh Johnson times. There's a lot of stuff that overlaps with Johnson that, hey, maybe he wasn't in the set, but Hamels was. How cool is that card? And get the mind thinking, oh, fuck, that would have been awesome for that. Thankfully, there wasn't because I'm sure it would cost a ton, but what could have been? And you wish people do that more. I get life and time and for some folks views and whatnot. They just don't want to. They're not getting X amount of views. They just don't care, which that's fine. You can anybody can justify it whatever way they want, but personal selfish reasons, I want to see more of these showcases, especially of the bigger collections. I'd love to see Tom show off his Tim Hudson stuff year by year, because I know he's got a dearth of stuff too that mid to later in Hudson's career, well, mid mostly because he pitched forever, that it overlaps again with Johnson. So it's just stuff you want to see different cards of. Denny, I'd love to see a Steve McNair collection. Scott is Isaac Bruce. Jason Christofini, I'd love to see his Brett Favre stuff because I know he's a big Packers fan. Bobby, even if he doesn't have a ton of Marinos, I want to see him. Brad, same thing. So even just doing that, and if you have to put together 4 or 5 videos or whatever it may be, at least you're still putting out videos. At least you're still, and it doesn't have to be, oh, your name's still in the circles or in the community. To the people that know of you or know you, your name's always going to be relevant. It's just to the other people that may come swooping through for a while that, okay, they're here today, gone tomorrow, but maybe they have something that sparks an interest with you, or there's a similarity there, or you find some common ground. And you're like, man, I liked so and so, but God, they were here for just like a snap of the finger, and that was it. So that's why I would say just put out videos too. Even if you're burnt out with those, it's better, because I know a lot of people don't. They text or they'll message, but like with me and you, there was a good chunk of time there where I lost your number. Trying to find it or have anybody tell me it was like pulling teeth, and I'm finally got a hold of you. And that's the thing, you're always wondering, like, what the hell is so and so up to? Well, I haven't seen a video. I hear a message from somebody maybe once every 6 months. Just let me know you're alive. If you don't want to talk, that's fine. Let me know you're alive, and that's where the video, even if it's like a 2-minute video. Hey, I'm doing fine. We're just doing this down there, wherever. Just checking in. Adios. Another 6 months to see me. But yeah, just not keeping your name out there, because I don't want that to sound like narcissistic at all. You just want to, I want them to remember me. No, just put something out, be done with it. 2 minutes of your time is not gonna break the bank.
Right.
There's a lot of people that they'll put a 2-minute clip on Instagram, won't do a 2-minute clip on YouTube anymore. It's sort of disheartening, but at the same time, that's, you choose a path and you go down it. So that can avoid the burnout too, where if you don't want to make videos, make one every so often, just to let people know, because there are people that don't care, that are true community members.
Right. No, I'm right there with you. Not to change the subject, but going back on the people listing stuff for stupid money. This isn't the best example, but I just happened to get one of those, seller offered a discount type thing. Try and prevent the glare a little bit. Yep. sometimes I can get this to work, sometimes I can't. So this is 98. That ain't cheap. So $150, buy it now, best offer. Seller offered a discount for $140.
Man, I don't know how you haven't bought it yet.
Because people have lost their damn mind. But that's the stuff that I was talking about that, you know, and look, I've said it before, I'm a cheap bastard. And I could admit that. You know, other people call it frugal. No, when it comes to certain things, I'm a cheap bastard. And I'm not expecting, you know, to find it for $5 shipped type situation, 99 cents plus shipping. That's not what I'm getting at. But for something like that, although I'll call it a staple of those years, I don't want to call it iconic. I don't think it quite meets the qualifications for iconic, but it is a staple for many years for Flair Showcase. Legacy collection, everybody knows them. Well, most people know them who collected in the 90s. They know about them. But they're not that rare to justify something of that extreme. And to me, that's extreme. It's never going to go anywhere. And if somebody's willing to pay that, more power to them. But I don't know if that's the only thing I can attribute that to is, you know, like just the current environment of the hobby. Because I go years back and I don't recall really ever seeing any situations in which somebody would post something to that extreme. I mean, that to me is like the extreme of the spectrum. And it's never going to go anywhere. 99% of the time, those situations, it's never going to go anywhere. Now, if you want to talk about it being PSA 10, BGS 9.5, different situation. Those had chipping issues. They had surface issues from a scratch perspective. Then different topic of conversation. But ungraded, I don't get it. But it's happening more and more frequent. And as a player collector, you see them more frequently because you're doing multiple searches and everything else. So you have a tendency to see those situations a lot more. You pay more attention to them. And the part of me almost wants to sit there and message these people and be like, where's your mind at? Or they'll list something as a short print for something that isn't a short print, and you almost want to flag the listing because there are individuals that are taking advantage of certain buzzwords in the card world to try and potentially take advantage of less knowledgeable individuals. And, you know, this is why we always talk about, we try and educate and bring knowledge to individuals so that people can make educated decisions on certain things because of the appreciation of the hobby. We don't want individuals to potentially make some of the same mistakes that we could have over time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also the same concept of, you know, me reaching out to you, for instance, on a variation of 2 insert sets. because when you go do your searches and everything else, and you think you kind of have an idea, but pictures don't always give you the level of detail that you need in order to be able to understand the difference. You physically have to see them or know where to go look. And for those who care, it's 99 Skybox Dominion. There's 2 insert sets. One of them is goal to go, goal to goal. So goal, the number 2, goal. It's a 2-sided card. And then there's Atlanta Attitude. And there's 3 versions. There's the base insert. There's what they call a plus version. And then there's the Warp Tech. Warp Tech is very distinguishable. If it's listed as such, you're going to be able to tell what dictates that variation. It's very obvious if the picture is well done or the scan is well done. The base and the plus version, there's no notation on the card that indicates what's what. And I always thought that the plus version was like a foil front or a foil. But now I'm not so sure. So I've reached out to Dave to see what he can dig up and see what he can potentially find out for me. And it all stemmed from having conversations with the person in Germany, because they have alluded that they have the plus versions of both those cards, which are needs on my checklist. And they came back telling me that they do have like a reflective finish on the front. And then, of course, I go look at mine and it's like, well, shit, so do mine. So what's the differentiation? And that's, now I could just go on ComC or eBay on Burbank, for instance, and pick up a version of both and then visually inspect them. But at the same time, if for any reason Dave is able to, do some additional digging and stuff, because I've done some digging and stuff, I can't find anything. Dave has other avenues in which he can go do some searches and things along those lines that potentially can help me figure out what the difference is. But that's the whole, aspect of building the friendships, though, too, and being able to have resources and try and educate yourself in situations to ensure that you're being informed of, before making a purchase. Because some of the 90s stuff, as I always talk about, some of those variations are slight variations. And unless you've been around long enough or have seen them type situation, it's very hard to know if you have a variation or not without knowing the difference.
Well, it's just like the PMG Emeralds. You have no clue about them. It's to 150. You're not like, oh, it's worth 15. It's like, no, it's numbered to 150, whatever.
Nope.
So, yeah, and especially with that stuff when they had like the warp text and
prism variations and spectral illusion elites and Dominion. Some of those stuff, though, they at least have the indicators. I mean, you look at the back of the card and it says Spectral Illusion Elite. Leather accents. People can say that, they have the playoff contenders 96 accent,
Mhm.
when in fact they don't, because the accent variation says accent on the back. Easily identifiable,
Mhm.
but if you don't know that, people can misrepresent something. It's no different with the 95 action pack, the Stargazers. There's a notation on the back in silver that says Stargazers. That's how you know the difference in the variation. This individual in Germany, having over 1,000 cards of Terrell Davis, even they're unaware of some of those things. Because I had to ask for pictures of the back of the action pack because the individual had identified that they had the Stargazers. And in fact, they didn't, because their version didn't have the Stargazers indication on the back. And then there's Topps Collection.
Mhm.
A lot of people have no idea that there is actually Topps and then Topps Collection. Now, what the difference, what the differentiation was of what indicated Topps and Topps Collection, that I don't know. I've never bothered to do the research to find out how somebody would get Topps Collection over just regular Topps, unless it was like a dealer thing, or it was certain factory sets that had that notation on them. But they're identified on the front of the card. It just doesn't say Topps. It says Topps Collection. And it is a different card. Individuals said that they had both of them. Well, I'm educating somebody who I'm trying to make a purchase from of things in which they thought that they may have based on my want checklist, when in fact, no, they didn't, because of the lack of the indicator that would demonstrate that it is in fact this or that.
It's the same with what is it, 98 Topps baseball. With the base, you have a minted in Cooperstown, which is just a little rectangle in the top right or left corner. But then you have the inaugural, sort of like the 95 for football, with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays stamp and then the Arizona Diamondbacks stamp. All of them are still the bronze border, like 98 Topps. That stamp is the only thing that's different. So if you're just looking at Topps and you're just leafing through, it's going to be all the same to you because you just see bronze. You're not really looking real closely for that other stuff. But yeah, it's just like the season 98 season opener with Topps and football. You can tell it's a season opener because it's silver, but you look at the Topps Manning rookie or Moss, you're like, oh Christ, that's like a $20-$30 card. Well, this Manning and Moss in the season opener got to be that price too, because they weren't seeded 1-for-1 and 4, 1 and 6, whatever they were in Topps. They were basically 1 or 2 a pack.
Right.
So yeah, it's not just now with 8 trillion parallels or parallels you just can't figure out what's what. I mean, it's been going on for a while. Especially
Absolutely.
like I showed the other week with the All-Stat. I mean, if you just look at that and I hold it like that, you're just like, oh, it's a regular card. And then, well, nope, there's the artist proof thing.
Yep, there's the artist proof.
It's just like,
Well, and then believe it or not, I'm 99% sure. If I'm able to work out this deal, I'm going to leave it in it just to see, but initial pictures indicate that it isn't. So it's been on the want list, but it's one of those of which I've never seen one before. I'm willing to take a risk on it just to see. 97 Crown Royal. Pro Bowl die cuts. They actually had a Hawaii trade conference parallel to that set. They are super short print, stated print run of 10. Now, I happened to stumble across one on eBay. I think it's Brett Favre or whatever. And I want to say it's graded, but they're wanting like ridiculous amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
But trying to do my research, of course. And there's some embossing on it that dictates the Hawaii Trade Conference. It's no different with like the Chicago collection from the national type situation. That one's a little bit more recognizable because it's in silver. I don't want to say silver foil, but it's a silver stamping on the card. And, those of Terrell Davis are serial numbered to 5. And they're physically serial numbered, so for sure because it's got it on the front and the serial numbers. It's either on the back or right up underneath it. I can't remember, to be brutally honest right now. But this individual's marked on the want list that they had the Hawaii Trade Conference. And they provided me a lot of pictures. So I was able to validate certain things, which is why I knew that 2 of the cards were not Topps collection, for instance. But the picture doesn't indicate any embossing. And maybe embossing is the wrong word, but it's more like an indentation, I guess, for the trade conference. So it's got like the palm tree and stuff along those lines. But it's imprinted into the card.
So like the Pro Line seal.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Same concept. And if you're looking at it straight on, most of the time you're not going to see any of that. So, I mean, you have to have it at a certain angle type thing to see potentially if that's there. This individual has, it's marked on the want list. That's one on which I'm willing to take a risk.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cool card. I already have the regular Pro Bowl die cut. It's not like it's a showstopper to get a double for something when, I'm looking at the total number of cards being, 60 to 61 to mark off the checklist. But certain things like that, even for me, I had no idea what the differentiation was. And the only way that you figure out some of those things is by doing the research. But the ones in which I've asked you about, the plus variation, I can't find shit. And the pictures don't freaking tell you any different because they both look the same. So there's always one of those situations in which, for all I know, I have both the base versions marked off on my checklist when in fact I may have the plus versions. So it's one of those in which I need to make sure my checklist is accurate from that standpoint of what version or what variation I have. So that's why the love for the 90s is always there. But at the same time, it sometimes is very frustrating because, usually it's me going to Dave. Dave usually doesn't come to me. But then there's times in which, because I do have a lot of variations when it comes to the Terrell Davis stuff. So there's certain things in which I can physically go and look at and potentially let him know, hey, what you're thinking it is yes, that's accurate because of this, and this, or, try and get more information, try and get a better scan type situation. As we've always said, we don't know everything. That would be impossible. But between the 2 of us, we know quite a bit. And if not, we have examples of some of those unusual or different variations that not everybody is aware of. So leveraging, friendships, relationships to increase your knowledge, allowing us the opportunity to continue to educate and inform, to make sure that, like I always say, you don't make a bad purchase, because there's nothing worse than thinking that you're making a purchase based on a listing and your understanding of a variation or a parallel, when in fact the individual who's selling it could have listed it wrong or think they have something that they don't. And it's usually those individuals that think they have something because there's a little bit more of an increase in value or sell price, without realizing that that's not actually what they have.
Yeah, we try to go back and forth, especially if it's something that is obscure that we may remember, but it's like, you know what? I didn't bust a bunch of that stuff that wasn't around where I was at. It wasn't something Steve had on his radar. So it's better to ask what you may think is a dumb question than buy something, spend X amount of dollars, and feel really stupid when it's not what you hoped or were expecting to get. Now, my question to you, would you consider that part of the checklist or a bonus? Because for me, if I can pick those cards up, so I'm thinking about a couple Collins, a couple of McCowns. I know there's a couple actual, like, what is it, the Kit Young Hawaii or conference or whatever it was called. They've got like a set, like specific sets. I think in the early to mid 2000s. But the show stamped cards, do you consider them part of the overall checklist, or to see for me, I just consider them as like bonuses because it's something that somebody took after the fact. It wasn't available in packs. And where I don't, it'd be like the Beckett. Beckett used to have whatever, like a Leaf Certified 02 preview card with that glue sort of stuff affixed to their whatever, send out for a subscription. I consider that more of a something to get to the checklist than the show cards or the whatever the one, because I know like the Chicago Sun Times or whatever it was has stuff to 5 and Kit Young to 10. I'd like them for the collection, but at the same time, for me personally, I wouldn't consider them part of the overall checklist.
If it's considered or part of what Beckett has notated within their checklist, then it is part of the checklist for me. I do have one, and I don't remember, I want to say it's a 2001 Topps card, and it's a 1 of 1, and it's from a specific show or whatever. That I don't consider part of the checklist because Beckett doesn't identify it as part of the checklist. It's no different than like the Pacific plates. They're not on the Beckett checklist. So therefore, those I do not have notated or captured in my counts. Those are what I consider bonuses. But if it's notated in Beckett, then that is definitely part of my checklist. Now, is it something in which I actively seek? No. Most of the ones that I've gotten, I've acquired through collection purchases. So from that perspective, if Beckett considers it a part of their checklist, then it's always going to be a part of mine, because that, unless another entity or another organization or something comes out with something different as a way to catalog or checklist a specific player, Beckett's going to be the source of truth for me, because there's nothing else out there that I know that can validate what truly has been manufactured. Do certain cards I steer away from potentially because it's not part of the checklist? Yes. Oddities, that type of stuff. Some of the collector's edge proofs or press proofs, whatever you want to call them, that type of stuff, because they're not identified as cards in Beckett. Do I shy away from those? Yes. Because although they're kind of cool, you don't know the legitimacy. And I would hate to spend $20, $30, $40 on something, although it's kind of cool, to where it's not something legitimate. Do I have some stuff like that? Absolutely. I want to say I have 3 or 4 Pacific printing plates. Some of them fronts, some of them backs. We had this conversation. I don't remember what episode in which, Pacific did fronts and backs from a plate perspective. But it's one of those in which they weren't pack pulled, so to speak. Some of the trade conference stuff, like the Chicago collection, numbered to 5, that type of stuff, I don't want to say that they were pack pulled per se, but somehow, shape, form, or fashion, if you look at, let's say, the National in recent years, they've had like the silver packs and the gold packs and stuff like that. So they are pack pulled then, if that is in fact the case for the years in which they did the Chicago collection. Look at the black box. Black box, all those parallels, they're pack pulled. And, if that's what Beckett dictates, those cards being part of the checklist, then how could you not say that they're not part of the checklist? But on the flip side, they have like the 93 Georgia Police, Terrell Davis. Some of those, I don't know what you want to call them. I don't want to call them pre-rookie cards or commemorative sets or, we'll call them oddballs. Baseball, they call them minor league. I guess you could call it a minor league card. It would be no different than, Emmitt Smith's Florida Gator card and stuff like that. Was that issued in packs through the Georgia Police Department? Or were they just printed a bunch of cards and police officers had them and they gave them to kids or whatever? But so it's like, what's the common denominator in that situation? What dictates what gets put in the checklist and what doesn't. I mean, Beckett lists stuff like this in the checklist. Or better yet, the bigger version. You know, those are here because those are part of the 98 PC showcase because it's part of the checklist. Or, you know, go into 2000, the Aurora Cubes. This is part of the checklist. So it's like, what's the common denominator that ultimately dictates what gets considered to be a checklisted item for Beckett? You know, starting lineups, the cards are in there. Sports Illustrated for kids, stuff like that. Some just off the wall stuff ends up on there. And you're like, you've seen in some of the other ones, the pro magnets, the flick ball, you know, just some of the red zone updates, you know, that's a card game, a collectible card game, same scenario. And, you know, Carlos has been showing off a lot of those oddities and stuff along those lines in a lot of his videos. So, I mean, he gets it. It's part of the checklist, which means if it's part of the checklist, then typically he's going to go for it. And it's a mark off the checklist.
Yeah, I could retort to that, but we'll be here talking for hours about show stamped cards or.
And I can argue both sides, Dave. I'm going to be brutally honest. I can. But it's one of those in which, like I said, it's not like I'm actively searching. Mm-hmm. I did pick up an O2 Contenders Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And it's numbered to 15. It's the only other one that I think that I needed, which is why I went ahead and bought it. Because I think I had the other ones. But, you know, I can argue both sides. But that's also dependent on your interpretation, because we always talk about being subjective as it pertains to what you want to put in your player collection compared to what somebody else wants to put in their player collection. You have a different basis or maybe a different source of truth for what you add to yours compared to somebody else. There's no right or wrong answer because it's always collect what you want to collect. And so the same would apply as it pertains to whether or not you consider it part of a checklist or part of the collection or you don't. Because at the end, it's your collection. Doesn't matter what I say or what you say because it's yours. And that's really what it boils down to. And I could see a lot of people arguing against that being part of a player checklist because the normal understanding or expectation is something pack pulled, which I get. And it's no different than, you know, the topic of the conversation of, you know, well, what's a rookie card? Mm-hmm. You know, what really dictates what a rookie card is? Well, baseball's definition is technically different than football's definition. Some of the same underlying requirements fall into play, but on the football front, how many rookies, at least in the early 90s, did you see in update sets? Mm-hmm. Or supplemental sets? You know, prime example, you know, Emmitt Smith's two most expensive rookie cards, Flair Update, Score Supplemental. So, well, and see, and Carlos, I get that too. And there's things I haven't stumbled across too many situations in which I have stuff that isn't in Beckett. There's one that comes to mind. I can't remember what the year is, but I think it was the last year in which Fleer manufactured cards before their bankruptcy. That there is an actual patch variation of one of their memorabilia cards that is not notated in Beckett. But it is, in fact, a patch variation. And it is all indications to me make it seem as though something was just missed. Because it says on the card patch. Now, I haven't done my research to see if there's other cards out there, but it's one of those in which there is no notation in Beckett that I'm aware of that notates patch variation. And for a lot of the Fleer stuff, there typically was that variation in that notation in Beckett's listing between like a jersey and the patch version, because they're clearly different.
Yeah.
Prime example, another example, 97 Motion Vision,
Mm-hmm.
the limited digital replay autograph. This is me personally, from an autograph number perspective, I consider this two unique cards. I have one that's in silver ink and one that's in gold ink.
Mm-hmm.
And nowhere, anywhere does it state that there is some silver, some gold. But I happened to come across the gold variation, and this has been years ago, the gold variation, and it was almost nothing. I'm like, well, this is different. Why not pick it up? 97 Excalibur helmets, the helmet autographs.
Mm-hmm.
I have one that actually has the helmet piece. You can see it in there, plain as day. The other one, it's empty. And it's not numbered. Different variation. Don't know what happened. Don't know if it came from a pack or not. But something different. That one I wouldn't expect to be notated anywhere in Beckett, because that could have been a promotional thing, a proof thing, because you never knew what Collector's Edge was doing anyways, because they were always beating to the tune of a different drummer. Their idea of inserts and parallels was a little bit, I don't want to say unorthodox, but a little bit more excessive. Not to mention, when you have some insert sets, you have one card and then you have a 50-point parallel, and the only difference is the fucking thickness of the card. I mean, seriously? You're thinking 50-point okay, so maybe I should be seeing 50-point or something on. No, it's the thickness of the frickin' card. Seriously? Seriously.
Especially for 98 Masters, when you have this like a gold number to 100, and then I think it was like a gold set to 150. And there's the only thing that's different is 100, 150
the serial number
on the back. That's it. It's like, really? That's the best you could do? They're the same thickness, same everything.
Yep.
nothing different. Like, okay, good job, Collector's Edge. You've done it again.
Well, and that's one thing that agitated me when I was actually really cataloging the collection and going through the checklists and marking things off and stuff along those lines, and stumble across the 50-point variation, and you have all these Collector's Edge cards in a stack, and you're sorting through them and going, okay, well, I have like 5 and 6 of this card. And then you're like 50-point variation. So you're like looking at the front, you're looking at multiple copies, you're looking at the front, you're looking at the back. And all of a sudden you flip them over on the side and you're going, seriously? That's what you use to differentiate between the regular insert and the 50-point variation? But on the flip side, it's no different than, Score doing regular base Score and then Score glossy.
Mm-hmm.
You know how hard it is to show a glossy in a scan or a picture? You almost have to take somebody's word for it.
Yeah, because it's not something that's going to easily pop and
Makes you wonder it makes you wonder sometimes, what were the card manufacturers thinking in those situations? Because, you got one glossy per pack, I believe, at least for a multitude of years. It was usually always in the same spot.
mm-hmm.
And from the feel, it's very recognizable when you're thumbing through a pack. But if you were like, somebody came to you and said, hey, I want to sell this collection. If they had stuff separated, so to speak, and you had your glossies on one side and your rookies, for instance, you're probably not going to buy base Score. You're going to be wanting rookies. Not to mention this is hypothetical. And if you're not thinking, and the fact that they're on two separate sides of the box, you could potentially not realize that you have glossy variations and think they're just regular base. It just, I know that's a bad example, but there's always that possibility that unless you're familiar with some of those situations, you're going to potentially overlook something. And
Just like the tops, glossy or whatever they used to be in the late 80s.
Tiffany.
Yeah, Tiffany.
The top's Tiffany.
Again, you can look at them and say, I guess they're the same. Unless you looked at the back.
Color variation. And keep me honest, it was like color variations on the back that would indicate whether or not something was a Tiffany or not.
It was for the 89, I'm thinking, it was like the darker maroon red and the black was like the back. It looked almost like a Topps traded. Lighter, much lighter. So it was almost like I don't even know, a fuchsia type or a rose color, a light rose, and then the black. But you could look and then be like, ooh, there was a difference there. But again, a lot of people, if it's 89 Topps, they whatever. But if you collect like Dave Magadan or whoever, maybe Greg Jeffries, you want to get Tiffany because that's a little more limited. Because I think that was 5,000 sets or something like that were made, or somewhere in that neck of the woods.
Yeah, I don't remember the counts, but definitely limited.
Again, especially compared to the times. Topps was pretty much running a printer and cutting up cards and sending them down the river. Because you could find them anywhere. But yeah, you don't know what you're looking for. A, it makes it a lot harder to find, and B, you're probably going to just gloss over something just because, again, you you're looking for something different, but because again, there isn't a multitude of. Oh, you go to the show, you see that example, that copy. You go look, come through a box, see that copy. Go to the card shop, same thing there. You don't. This stuff isn't your run of the mill stuff that every collector or every collection has.
Right.
Most people have that stuff just tucked away in their player or team collector that's stuck somewhere, or you go to the show and you're out of the hobby. It's sitting in a box somewhere, thrown away because whatever. So
Random question. 91 Tops Desert Storm. Were those actually pack inserted?
I don't think so. I think that was all stuff that they gave to the troops over there, I want to say.
Because there's been a few times in which I've seen listings like on eBay for 91 Tops packs that supposedly guarantee them being like Desert Storm packs. But when you look at from an advertisement perspective, like on the box itself, if something like that to me would be included as an option or an insert or parallel, something would be notated.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody and that was the thing. But how could individuals claim that they're in fact Desert Storm? What indicators? To me, there always has to be indicators. And I know that there's, and whether or not it's accurate or not, speculation. 89 Fleer in the Billy Ripken fuckface card, they were in the early printings.
Mm-hmm.
But that's before they started doing holograms and everything on the boxes that would dictate, certain print runs and things along those lines. To me, serial numbers, unless you have inside information, how are you going to know if said serial number falls into the category of when that possibly was a thing? And I don't know if it's, like I said, these individuals having that inside information or knowing somebody, or if they're just blowing smoke up people's ass.
Mm-hmm.
But there's certain parts of me that almost want to take a risk on something like a Desert Storm type situation, even if it's $10-15. But if they're guaranteeing, because even $10 or $15, I mean, most of the Desert Storm cards sell for that, just of a no-name guy. I mean, your bigger name guys, of course, are going to hold a higher value, but some of the no-name guys even sell for a decent amount of money. It's one of those in which, is it false advertising? Is there a way in which these people know for sure what the identifier is? Just posing the questions, because those are oddities in my mind. Uh-oh.
Say it's either a hoagie or a bag of spaghetti, because again, he seems to like his food quite a bit. And
Well, if he's got a license to carry, does it really matter?
it depends where he's at. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know what Canada has for laws. I don't think they're up there. Dominican, if he's down there, that just seems to be like pretty much do whatever you want.
Yeah, who knows, right?
I like him, but at the same time, man, I just don't. The people that drop tons of money on him, they are gonna be the people that they really suffer because I don't think he's gonna have a long career at all. And I'd like him to, but at the same time, I just I don't know. I
Yeah, who
think more
knows?
with Bichette and Biggio being their two cornerstones up in Toronto, and Vlad eventually just either eating or he'll do something stupid. I just have that feeling where he'll have some sort of legal or something. He'll fuck up somehow.
On the flip side, I'd be scared my dad would whoop my ass. Because
I haven't seen him post in forever. He was like a super positive tuber, which again, pretty much the exact opposite of me. I mean, he was like he was really positive. I think his name was Jeremy. I mean, again, nice dude, but I'm more of the gloom and doom and acid rain and sinkholes and stuff of that nature. Why do you ask, Mr. Bob Lewis? Rave or super? I can tell, but I can't tell which. That's a decent one. What's the Mark Wetton error? As soon as you probably explain it. It'll jog it'll jostle some brain cells. 98 rubies.
Yeah, something you were talking about earlier. This is 98, of course. Not as pretty as 97.
No. But still, very nice looking card.
Just a few things for in preparation for what's upcoming for 98. Something you showed earlier.
I love those. And there's another one that's a die cut too. That I know. I think Bledsoe had or Martin had that. Are
So
super tough to find.
we were talking about these earlier. So this is one that I actually have marked on the checklist as a 101.
Mm-hmm.
However, and like I said, this is going based off of what the individual said. It was a replacement, but there is no serial number.
Mm.
But they had said that this came as a replacement. So it's one of those in which I have it marked as one, but I don't technically count it, so to speak. I was trying to see some of the other ones kind of at the top of the list if there was anything that. Your favorite set.
Love
But that's 90.
Crown Royal. Or love
That's
Famous Stores.
that's 98. So I was just looking at some of the. You'll see some of these when I of course, as I freaking fuck it up. I just freaking dropped the damn stack.
My buddy did that at a card show once. I had told him, I said, hey, just, you're going to look through them all. Just don't you don't need 2 or 3 stacks worth in your hands. Because you're clumsy. I've seen you drop cards before. He's like, no, don't worry about it. I'm like, okay. So I went to another table looking at stuff so I could still look at him because I knew he was going to fucking shit can him. He's fucking sure as shit. A stack, like, I don't know, like one of the Dumbo stacks. He's trying to go through a stack like that big in his hands. I'm like, fucker, it's not going to work. He fucking, that middle of the stack shot out everywhere. I'm like, oh, you dumb cunt. What are you doing? And again, this was like, I think all Curtis Martin type stuff back then. Because he was the guy that really collected him back in the 95, 96, 97. But it was embarrassing. I'm like, you idiot. Wondering, dumb fuck. What is going on?
Yeah, well.
Yeah. You told me I was going to do that. I'm like, no shit. Fuck.
It is what it is. At least it's pretty easy to kind of refix my screw up because it's not like it was too bad of a deal.
Yeah, not like it tipped over a box or something.
No. I did not. So I'll at least be able to get everything back in order without any major issues, which I'm doing real quick. Because I was close as far as where it went. I wasn't. I was one card off. Oh well, but it's now in the right order.
Well, we went 3 1/4. I think we finally covered some of the burnout, much to
We did.
Carlos's delight.
We did.
Didn't talk too much about what was going on tonight. I'm nervous to even turn on anything else that's not sports related. And see what the people of America are deciding.
Yep.
And deciding if the Cayman Islands looks better than Ely, Minnesota.
We'll have to wait and see.
We will wrap it up for the night. We thank everyone for jumping in. A lot of good chatter. Again, sort of slow starting, but we figured that was going to happen. I'm going to be Barry Horowitz. That we'll figure out something for next week. I haven't run out of topics, but of the stuff I wrote down on Lake Superior, that's I think the last one besides the one that you were, I won't say adamant about not doing, but you want to talk about a swirling of negativity. That's going to be.
Yeah, let's try and avoid the negativity. We touch on that topic from time to time in certain situations. So I think we can always have that one as a consistent running type topic as it's needed. So.
See you later, Bob.
Have a good one, Bob.
See you later, Carlos.
Take it easy.
And thanks for stopping by and interacting. It's always a plus because we can talk, but fuck, we both admit we're boring as sin. So you guys start chiming in. It always helps.
Absolutely.
Keep us going. Night, Vinny.
Have a good one, Vinny.
Until next week. He's Steve. And it's the Insert Revolution podcast. And can't even remember my tagline. I'm so white. Building a collection. Awesome. Building the friendships within this hobby. That's what it should be about. Good night, everyone.
Good night, fellas.